In this video, I'll be obtaining the Platinum Trophy for Berserk Band of the Hawk. This game is a 7 out of 10, tying 9 playthroughs and upwards to 60 hours. Most of your time will be spent suffering through the endless Eclipse mode, where you need to complete 100 levels with each character. For some reason, the developers never added in Skull Knight, even though they have his assets, but they add in this fuck-ass character.
Brother, this guy stinks!
This game is fundamentally a Dynasty Warriors game, so it's time to just turn off our brain and go berserk. We start the game off learning combo strings while plowing through hundreds of enemies in a very familiar place.
The Nether.
Also unfortunately known as the Eclipse. We earn our first trophy for killing 100 people with a death blow, which is a super attack that you'll be doing countless times throughout your game. After this victory, we are faced with the Band of the Hawk's inevitable outcome. This game is very hack and slashy, as it's derived from a Dynasty Warriors type style, where you'll have a bunch of objectives to do, like limited time events, killing certain things, and doing things in a certain time limit, obtaining baylets. I will say that the bosses in this game are one of the negative points, as a lot of bosses either infinitely guard, stun lock you, or just have a whole lot of health. Which isn't a bad thing per se, but being a Dynasty Warriors, all you really want to do is just kill thousands and thousands of things in one swing. This next trophy was for killing 1,000 people, and this trophy was really funny to me because I earned it in the scenario where Guts becomes the 100-man slayer.
Leave me alone!
In order to gain the trust and assets from the Kingdom of Midland, the Band of the Hawk was tasked to defeat the undefeatable army. As things were finally looking up for the Band of the Hawk, it only took one of Guts' selfless acts to completely break Griffith. Guts was having an existential crisis, where he was living underneath Griffith's shadow. He wanted to find his own purpose, so he challenges Griffith to a duel to sever his ties from him. But he never knew the consequences that would face him and the Band of the Hawk later. This is also the one and only time, even in the manga, where Guts defeats and completely breaks Griffith.
So that was a fucking lie.
For obvious reasons, I can't show Griffith's torture, neither the events of the Eclipse, but you will see a really badass clip of Skull Knight. Even though there are no more scenes from the movies, this game has a lot of really well animated clips of the later arcs, unlike other renditions that we've had in the past. Following the events of the Eclipse, Guts goes on a mission to completely slaughter and hunt every apostle and monster that he can. The Lord of Thieves, the Count, Wild, and Mosgus will all be reoccurring bosses that will end up fighting numerous times after every subsequent level in the Endless Eclipse mode. I was a little sad that they didn't add the Lost Children arc, but looking back at it, I can understand why. Starting off in the Conviction arc, Guts gets himself imprisoned by Farnese and the Imperial Guards. While the game does cut out the Lost Children arc, it does in fact add one of the most traumatizing scenes in Berserk. Yeah, that scene. This unfortunately also becomes a mini-boss in most of the Endless Eclipse.
Very poor choice of words.
After Guts returns to Godo's shack, he learns that Rickert and Erica probably weren't the best caretakers.
Really, nigga?
While on the rescue mission to save Casca, I ended up getting my 10,000 kills. While finding out that Mosgus was a hypocritical heretic himself, we end up finding out that the Egg of the Perfect World had his sacrifice used in order to benefit a certain someone else's goal. The egg of the perfect world was then used to reincarnate Griffith to his original body. Not only did Griffith rematerialize in his original body, but he had new goals. He wanted to make a demonic version of the Band of the Hawk. He then recruits a bunch of apostles for his next onslaught. Guts couldn't understand that not only Griffith backstabbed him, but even replaced the entire Band of the Hawk. Filled with rage, he tried fighting him, but Zod gets in his way. This is one of the more annoying fights in the game, as Zod can stunlock you with every other attack. While on the search for someone who could restore Casca's mind, Guts inevitably ended up in the magician's shack where he found Shiryuke and her master, who also has ties to Skull Knight himself. Being an apprentice, Shiryuke couldn't understand how Guts defied the God Hand's intentions, so to test what kind of person he and Casca were, she wanted his help with a problem in a nearby village. After this, they discovered an astral world projection leak within the actual world. This is where the God Hand would send out apparitions of evil into the actual world. This has a lot of significance, as this is one of the only times where one of the God Hand actually materialized into a physical form.
Hey yo, what the fuck?!
Shortly after, the group notices that the mansion has caught fire. Two of Griffith's strongest apostles, Grunbeld and Zod, have launched an attack in hopes of luring out Guts. This mission has a notably missable Bailet that if you don't protect at least a couple of the golems protecting the mansion, you'll lose it. As if you don't have a couple golems left standing, most of the apostles won't spawn in for you to kill for the last Bailet. As Guts was getting overwhelmed by Grunbeld, his only saving grace was when Shiryuke gave him the Berserker armor handed over by Flora. This was a very iconic and inspirational point in the story, as a lot of Dark Souls content took a lot of inspiration based solely off of this armor. Getting into the very final mission of the story mode, this is a lot of content to take in and a lot of missables if you don't correctly do a lot of the side content. There's most notably a missable Bailet where if you don't get to Zod before you finish escorting your party, you'll miss it and you'll have to redo the entire mission from start to finish, as this only appears towards the very end as you're escorted into the harbor. One of the best things about being towards the end game is you have access to the actual Berserker portion of the gameplay. Especially whenever you beat 100 floors with Guts in the Endless Eclipse, you gain access to an unlimited amount of Berserker armor. This game did a lot of justice for this previous cutscene, as I don't think that we'll get a really good adaptation for this series anytime soon. Not until someone shells out a lot of money or a lot of passion, because the 2016-2017 just was not it. Unfortunately, this is the end of the story mode. It only really covered a portion of the Millennium Falcon arc, and it does not delve into Fantasia, but in my opinion, I feel like it really delivered on the aspects that it did cover. This game definitely isn't without its own faults, as a lot of the gameplay does get repetitive and boring at sometimes, and that's why switching up to different characters in the Endless Eclipse mode kind of makes it fresh and fun, but we're only just beginning. The Endless Eclipse is a very monotonous, tedious thing to do, but if you just want to enjoy a very decently adapted rendition of Berserk's story to the best of its own ability in the modern age, this is definitely a game you should pick up. This was a very fun game to just shut your brain off and just continue to play. But before we get into the Endless Eclipse, we're going to do some cleanup. These next two trophies are kind of a tedious thing where you have to pick a certain character and wait for another retrospective character to just die out, which just so happens to be their love interests. Next one is just a random minigame with Puck, and for completing a mission with every character. Now I will say, when dealing with the Endless Eclipse mode, there are a couple ways to make your life a lot easier, most notably a glitch that is super easy. You can use this just in case you think you're about to die and gain most of your items back. The only thing that you cannot do with this glitch is move on to the next floor. You have to do the glitch on the current floor that you're on. If you move to the next floor without performing the glitch, whatever items you used previously will be used and you cannot get back. So what you want to do is you want to use any item right before you enter the next level, hit options and save your game, and it's going to save a file directly to your console. Then all you have to do is exit the game and resume. This is a very easy glitch, and I don't give two shits if you call me out for it, because Femto is the most unforgiving and annoying boss that you'll ever fight in your gaming career, as most of his abilities will stun lock you and do massive amounts of damage. And by the time that you've done floor 80 to 100, you've most likely used a healing item or a buff. Not to mention, you have to do this 8 separate times. Floors 80 through 100 most notably take at least 2 to 3 hours with the strongest characters. It roughly took me almost 4 hours to do it with fucking Judo. The most nonsensical character that they probably could have added to this game. I'll never not forgive Koei Tecmo for adding Judo over Skull Knight. Now, I'm definitely not going to be showing you all 8 separate playthroughs of the Endless Eclipse. That is just too boring. The whole point of Dynasty Warrior games is just to plow through thousands of enemies and to do it with certain builds. A lot of people also think that Casca is one of the worst characters to use, and I actually think that she's at least top 4. She has a lot to her kit. She has not only a counter, but she has multiple buffs, and her special attack actually does damage. I will say that you have to always be looking at what Femto's doing. He will always dish out some bullshit.
You motherfucker! He grabbed me mid-air!
A couple things to look out for whenever you're fighting Femto is, one, whenever he's pulling out his bubbles, and whenever he raises his hand. Whenever he raises his hand, he's more than likely doing an AoE either in front or behind you. One thing is to always keep distance until you guard break him, and whenever you guard break him, you'll know as there will be yellow bubbles above his head, and he'll be able to be thrown like a ragdoll. I ended up finally getting my 100,000 kills while playing as Serpico. Once I beat the 100th floor with Guts and the Endless Eclipse, I was able to get the unlimited Berserker armor, which is probably the best time to go and kill every apostle as Guts on Berserker difficulty. This definitely made it a whole lot more fun and pretty easy. After beating Ganishka, you can actually only get a very proprietary accessory from him, and this was the last one I needed. The next one I got was beating every apostle as Griffith in his falcon form. Then once I beat my 7th character, I got all of the warhorses, my last picture frame, and most of the desires, which are just objectives to do in the Endless Eclipse. The very final character that I had to play as was Shirayuki, and I was actually kind of dreading because I didn't know how she was going to play. Little did I know that she was one of my favorite characters and probably my #1 pick. I literally saved the best for last and never even knew it. Not only is she super overpowered, but her kit is basically catered to just one-shotting everything without any hassle whatsoever. Not only is she super fun, but she can clear at any level at any point in the Endless Eclipse. I went upwards to even level 200 just because I was having so much fun. And with my 8th character done, that wraps up the Endless Eclipse and all of its misery. And then finally, Berserk Band of the Hawks Platinum. Now I will say that this game was a very tedious and annoying grind for the Platinum, and I personally wouldn't push anyone to go for it unless you wanted to. But if you just want to have a fun, chill experience and relive in a very good, nuanced rendition of Berserk, this is 100% the game to play. Definitely not the game to Platinum, but definitely one to just experience. Thank you so much for anyone that actually got to this portion of the video. I do just want to say that I have more things coming, and especially some challenge videos, more Souls likes, and Ghost of Yote is just around the corner. I'm still fairly new to editing, and this is only my 3rd video I've ever edited in my life, so I'm getting a little faster at it. A couple more episodes down and I'll probably have my editing style down to a T. And with that, I'll catch y'all later.